one of the things the show does well is explores what is dysfunctional.
No matter what your views on marriage, the data doesn't lie.
What is dysfunctional?
The data doesn't lie. The data doesn't lie.
Gwyneth Paltrow is on the air again, saying something about the difficulty of being a mother on set is more difficult than being a mother in an office, on a train, commuting to those 9 to 5s. She says you have it easier when your life is synchronized to the needs of mouths that are not your mouth, to the needs of bosses that don't know your name. You have it easier when you're alone in a room with a baby, when the sun hasn't risen and your chest is dripping milk. You wonder if today is the day the paycheck or the 7 o'clock bus or the sun won't come. Gwyneth, I don't have a baby, but my dread is bigger than your dread. My breasts are bigger, heavier than your breasts. Do you still feel the need to compare? How about this? My cat would be cuter than your cat if it hadn't been for that sick neighbor and his box cutters. My lover laughed and his back got smaller more quickly than your lover's back. My dad dying sucked more than your dad dying sucked. I could do this ridiculousness all day. But Gwyneth, the memory of my mother needs me to say that novel she always wanted to write never got written. I was a needy daughter. Maybe even needier than your daughter. I demanded she look at me instead of a book or the movie on the TV. And maybe, Gwyneth, you were in it, being thinner than my mother, but not prettier. There were days my pretty mother didn't look at me because she couldn't see past the dark space in herself, and I hated her. There was a day my mother cried in the laundromat when a woman, another mother, asked her what she did for a living. And when my mother said she was a home health care aide, the woman said that meant my mother was nothing but a maid.
I found a good job as a maid. As a maid.
The color of blood is more vivid and harder to clean in my daydreams than in your daydreams. And a powerless life is harder to describe to the powerful than the sound of my mother crying on the rug. But I'll try.
Channel 7, Buffalo, it's 11 o'clock. Do you know where your children are?
I was just getting to know my daughter.
Bang, 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 bang. All this week, NBC News and USA Today have been jointly reporting on problems in the American family. One of the most dramatic and troubling developments is the number of children now being born out of wedlock among all groups, but especially to Black inner-city teenagers.
Saw a lot of things happen here. A lot of bad things happen.
They talk about saving the children. We're trying to save the children. We're trying to save the children.
You were still a child. I stopped being a child the minute the strip turned pink.
We're trying to save the children from the welfare state the liberals created, which has failed.
Republicans and the Democrats, those who are legislating, they are so far removed from those they are legislating for that they do not understand.
Besides the teenage part of the audience, I think the other large part of our audience probably is the single mother raising the kids who probably works, probably gets maybe child support, but I think there are a lot of those women out there, and I think what's kind of nice is a little how-to book, if maybe in a little bit of idealistic way.
So, 2001 to 2011, children living in female-headed households with no spouse present have a poverty rate of 48%, which is over 4 times the rate in married couple families. You could virtually eliminate poverty if people would just get married before having children. No matter what your views on marriage, the data doesn't lie.
Becky McDaniel lives with her son in this California home for families. Like 40% of homeless women, she fled to a shelter to escape domestic violence.
The data doesn't lie.
It's not my fault that I'm homeless. I was working. I had a home. I took care of my responsibilities. I am an intelligent woman. I was a victim of circumstance.
I had no other choice. I stayed at night at a PADS, and it wasn't a very nice place for children. So I decided to come here.
Where's that?
In Sun, my mother travels the highway to the house of the boy who can no longer walk and feeds him spoonfuls of oatmeal with maple syrup. Back and forth she drives beside the abandoned dear bodies that have reappeared after the winter thaw. Sometimes, she says, she doesn't recognize them for what they are, part dog, part prehistoric dactyl, part bird. Before she leaves, she rubs his legs down, hangs his sheets out, and leaves them up to dry.
Where's that?
Drive west, make a left to the haystacks, and follow the cow.
Washington Depot, Connecticut. It was very tiny, and we drove through, and it was October, so it was like leafing season, and everything was beautiful. And you go in a coffee shop, and everybody knows each other, and they're going behind the counter, and they're pouring themselves coffee.
Here, don't use your hands.
We were walking across the street, and she taking this vista in, and she said, "What if I set the show here?" And I said, "Sure." And that's how it became Connecticut.
1, 2, get rid of poverty, get married. Or, keep sucking at the teat of the state and destroying the economy and the opportunities of your children.
But really, the background is the town. The background is just the people.
I don't think Stars Hollow is surreal, however. I think there are towns like it. I've definitely driven through some small towns where it seems like everybody kind of knew everybody, and there's the diner that they walk in. Oh, hey, Chuck, and hey, Jenny, and stuff like that. So I'm sure there are tons of towns out there. I haven't had the pleasure of living in one.
But there are no stereotypes.
There's a lot of fraud going on. A lot of people get a lot of assistance that is not entitled to them. But what about the people that really, really need it?
But there are no stereotypes.
Nobody told you to cut it. I should give him an apple. Shut up.
I'm not the best mom. Not knowing, being so young. I'm a trying mom. I'm trying to be a good mom.
I worked my way up. I run the place now. I built a life on my own with no help from anyone.
Well, how are you going to give Michael...
Sonia Tidwell, 23. She's a third-generation single mother from Camden.
Oh, man, it hurts so much. It hurts so much. See what I've done to my life and to my children's life.
My way up. I run the place now. I built a life on my own with no help from anyone.
On our final installment of the week-long series on Black America, we turn to the difficult and controversial question of the future. This week we have seen two Black Americas. One group, building on the civil rights gains of the 1960s, moving up.
I built a life on my own with no help from anyone.
The other, perhaps a third of Black America, standing still, or worse yet, sliding back.
But there are no stereotypes.
And how much the failure of government programs or the blacks themselves. It is a provocative issue, and as Gary Cutley reports, there are no simple answers.
We have seen the problem, the poverty, the crime.
The data doesn't lie.
The despair of dead-end lives.
One of the things the show does well is explores what is dysfunctional about this relationship between a mother who is 32 and a daughter who's 16, which is, it looks fun, it's really great when you can borrow each other's clothes, but when a conflict happens, it's tough because my character is someone who has defined herself more as a friend than as an authority figure.
It works because we don't say that any one of those generations is right.
I say he's wrong. From the welfare state the liberals created, which has failed.
I said he is absolutely wrong. I think it is incumbent upon certainly those of us in the black community who carry some leadership responsibility to continue to hammer away at government's responsibility for doing those things that government can do.
We just open it up so that you can see all of the workings behind within their minds.
And the question, is there a solution?
Worked my way up. I run the place now. I built a life on my own with no help from anyone.
20 years ago, we thought there was.
And this administration today, here and now, declares unconditional war on poverty in America.
There were victories. Black families like the Haskells did move up to the middle class.
Worked my way up.
But the failures are seen in the growing underclass left
But there are no stereotypes.
We have to ask ourselves, are we willing to tolerate large communities of people in this country, in the inner city, who just are being kept as kinds of wards of the state?
The data doesn't lie.
Charles Murray's controversial book, Losing Ground, is the Bible for those in the Reagan administration who want to cut government assistance. He charges that welfare has actually hurt the poor, that it has caused the dramatic increase in unwed mothers who can now live without a job or a husband. And he has a solution.
Let's cut off a wide variety of income transfers, of welfare assistance.
And he has a solution. And he has a solution.
No, people die, we pay. People crash cars, we pay. People lose a foot, we pay.
Let's cut off a wide variety of income transfers, of welfare assistance.
Dad, would you mind sitting down for a minute?
You need money.
I have a situation.
You need money.
Please let me get this out, okay?
And he has a solution.
The problem is that they want me to put down an enrollment fee plus the first semester's tuition, and I have to do that immediately or she loses her spot.
So, you need money.
And he has a solution.
Yeah.
But they just don't send me a check. They do send me food stamps.
Good thing. Next September, Barbara Robinson and others still on welfare will get no more cash, just state-subsidized jobs.
This is definitely the most challenging job I've ever had, just in terms of how much language I deal with.
It's still called welfare in Wisconsin, but the check now comes only with hard work.
I'll be back in plenty of time to help you decorate.
No, this is your party. You do not work. You lounge and mock those who are. Have I taught you nothing?
I don't think it is possible in America in the late 20th century for whites to ignore the nature of the special problem posed by blacks in this country.
35 hours a week. Debbie Harris figured she might as well find her own job after 9 years on the public dole.
But there are no stereotypes.
Coming to work. I love it.
So, it's just a lot of work. It's a lot of work.
But the check now comes only with hard work.
It's a lot of work.
Today I started at Walmart. I'm going to be making $8.20 an hour as a cashier. And it's only seasonal for right now.
Wash day was very hard work years ago.
Worked my way up. I run the place now.
Actually, the day I left Lowe's, I had to leave because my son was having an asthma attack in school. So I pretty much got fired.
But the check now comes only with hard work.
It's a lot of work.
Wash day was very hard work years ago.
I found a good job as a maid.
Where's that?
Less eyes on the street, you know what I mean? Less actual, people to possibly see anything go down. So, kind of limits, the humanity of the street.
In my utopia, my mother has still been hired to cook for someone else's mother and bathe her and listen to her and help her lift off of the toilet and shop for her groceries with her shakily clipped coupons and make sure she takes her medicine for her heart and her blood pressure and her diabetes and her dementia. My mother, who kneels beside that mother at midnight because that mother couldn't sleep and cried out to her like a loon beside a lake, who needs the comfort of proximity and would only stop to sleep when my mother knelt beside her bed and let that mother run her hands through my mother's hair. But in my utopia, my mother, who has been hired to care for that mother, will be valued enough to be paid enough to repair her car when her engine begins to sputter. She wouldn't need to fear being stranded beside the deer bodies, the red blooming from their mouths, spontaneous roses, the deer heads tilting up on the road's shoulder from the hinges of their necks long and thick as a woman's thigh. I won't need to get out of my mother's car at ages 5 and 6 and 7 and 28 and push us to the roadside, my palms against the warm metal forcing us forward, my calf muscles flexing into the lean, my mother steering, her eyes reflected in the side view, wide as a doe's in a truck's line of sight.